Welcome everyone. Sorry that we are a couple of minutes late. As you can see, we're trying to set up a live stream situation here, and it's our first time doing it. So yeah, this event right out of the gate, I'm a little bit nervous, also a little bit excited, so bear with me if I take a little extra time to explain what I want to say. And yeah, let me just get you into what we're going to be talking about today. So my name is Fran Palokaj. I am the chairman of the BeMore Foundation, and I'm also the host of today's workshop. And before we get into the workshop, I will just very briefly tell you a little bit about what BeMore is and what we do, and then we'll just get into the actual workshop part. So BeMore is a foundation that is dedicated to personal growth and development for students, but we also put a lot of importance on well-being. And I think a lot of students definitely experience that now. That sometimes it's very hard to keep mental clarity, to live a healthy lifestyle, to be productive. And that's kind of what we try to help students with BeMore. And in that same spirit, in that same essence, we are also doing today's workshop, which is growth in balance, with a little side note, the 6 life domains. And I'm going to tell you all about these 6 life domains today. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. So, Fran Palokaj, 24 years old, personal growth junkie, bordering on obsession for the past 5 years now. So that's really like my biggest interest. I do some writing, some speaking. I create content. I'm a CMD student, and I'm pretending to be professional. And so far, okay. So, what are we going to be talking about today? The first part of the workshop is going to be an introduction into what the 6 life areas actually are, right? What is the explanation, like how do they work, where do they come from, why are they important, a little background on what it is. Then the second part is actually going to be the meat of the matter. That's when we're really going to take a deep delve and explore every area separately. In this part of the workshop, I also give you some assignments in between. Now, bear in mind, these assignments were made with the idea that everyone would be together in the classroom, which is unfortunately not the case right now, but we're still going to try to make them work as well as we can. After that, we'll have a short recap, and I'll share some resources with you, and at the end of the live stream, there is room for questions. Our technical dude just walks away, so got to give him a little wave. Thank you, Tom. If you have any questions in the meantime, shoot them in the live stream. We got Lucy and Bjarne over there, and they can shoot your questions through to me, and then in that way, I'll be answering them. As I mentioned, it's the first time doing a live stream. We hope the interactivity works like this. I'll try to bring you along as well as I can, but bear with us if it's not the ideal method. It's also trial and error for us today. Cool. Introduction into the life areas. There are 6 different life areas. Let me just put that away. And we call these the BeMore 6 life areas, but they're not really our life areas, right? They're everyone's areas. They have different names. There's different ways of filling this in, but this is just the way that we decided to do it. Then we'll talk a little bit about why these matter and the origins of where they come from. So we'll start with the life areas themselves. The goal for us to make these life areas is to take something which is super complex, which is being a human, right? Being a human is tremendously complex. Being in this world, there's uncountable variables. And basically what we try to do is build a model which kind of captures the different ways of being a human, but obviously it's going to be incomplete. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all. I wanted to put this quote in because, it's very easy to just get by in life. It's very easy to get your 9-to-5 job and to scroll on social media and to just get a bunch of food at the store. But really getting the most out of your life, that is what being a human is about, right? And that's where these life areas will also help you with. So the first area is the mental. Right? And this is everything that has to do with cognition, with skill acquisition. This is really getting to know things on an intellectual and on a cognitive level. So that's the mental. Then we have the physical, which is all related to the body, right? It's the physical health of your body. How far can you run? How well do you sleep? How much can you lift, right? How flexible are you? I'm not flexible at all, but that would be a good improvement for me to make in this domain. Then we have the social. Now, for everyone who's been to the Confidence and Charisma workshop, might be a couple of you, that was really all inside the social domain. And that's interactions with other people, communication, right? Everything that we have to distance right now, but then hopefully connect. That is the end goal of the social domain. Then we have the financial area. And the financial area, it is related to finances, yes, to money, but it's also related to everything materialistic, right? We live in a semi-materialistic world, and the financial area is related to all of those things. So that can be money, but it could also be capital. It could be any items that you own, like cars, basically anything material that you own. Then we have the creative area, right? And we have a lot of creative people at BeMore, a lot of CMD and IC students creating a bunch of cool stuff. But basically the creative area is more than just being creative. It's not just being artsy. It's not making a painting or a piece of music. It can be that, but it's also everything that we create, right? Maybe someone built a house. Maybe you sent a letter to a friend. It's basically anything that you use your body for to turn into, or to manifest rather, into reality. That is kind of the creative domain. And finally, we have the spiritual domain. And this is really the part that relates to the deeper questions in life, right? Meaning, purpose, transcendence. And it's a hard domain to grasp, but a very important and very rewarding one. Okay, so this is just a quick introduction. I'm going to get back to you on all these domains way more in depth in a bit, but I just wanted to foreshadow a little bit what we'll be talking about. So, why do these areas matter? It's not a very unimportant question to ask. The main thing here is that arguably everything that we do relates to our primal drive for survival and reproduction. So, Charles Darwin said survival of the fittest, right? The being or the organism that is the fittest will survive the best. Now, the connotation that we have with being fit, it's usually like, I got muscles, I do yoga, I eat healthy. But being fit is basically, what it really means is inhabiting your environment in the best way possible to get what you want to get out of it. Right? So that's why like a sloth or a koala, it's a super lazy animal. You wouldn't classify it as fit, but it actually matches with its environment. It gets out of its environment what it wants, and that's why it still exists. Because you always got to remember, any being that you see ever around you in your entire life all comes from a chain of evolution that goes billions and billions of years. Right? So it didn't get here just by being meh. It's pretty damn good, because you got to go through all these trial and errors. So we all have that primal drive for survival and reproduction, and that is something that we base almost every decision on that we make in our lives. Right? There's some caveats there, but it's the essence of what humans are doing. This readily translates in a hunger for growth. Now, the term growth is what I usually get the most pushback from people. Because growth very often is seen as this capitalistic mindset of always wanting more, right? You want more, more. You want to be more. Even our name's got it in it. And then people think you always want more, but you're willing, you don't really care about the cost. But that's not true. Growth, to me at least, means getting from this point to a point where you would rather want to be, right? Because you always have an option. You are here, in the here and now. You are gonna go somewhere, right? Change is inevitable. You're always gonna go somewhere, and then the choice is up to you. Do you want that place to be better than where you are right now, or do you want that place to be worse? And I think in essence, most humans have a hunger for growth. We want to provide for ourselves, we want to provide for our families, and basically we want to make the world a better place. And this is very important to keep in mind. How to grow or what to grow differs greatly per individual. So let's say, for example, Bjarne wants to become a millionaire. There is absolutely nothing wrong with becoming a millionaire, but that might not be my goal. Maybe I want to get enlightened, or maybe I want to take care of my family, or maybe I want a cool career. What we want to grow in, that is very subjective and very personal, so it's never static. It's not like that is growth, that is not growth. It's very subjective, but you'll know. You'll know when you're making the right choices, and you'll also know when you're kind of ditching out on your own real, honest, true wants and needs. So, as I mentioned earlier, this life areas thing that we've created is a gross oversimplification of life, right? There's uncountable, unlimited, infinite amount of variables in life, and this is just an attempt to classify that. Now, you could make the argument, and my apologies if I get like a little philosophical at times, but I really like to dive deep into the subject. You could make the argument that it doesn't make sense to classify something that can't be classified, so you're better off not doing it. Right? And that's a perfectly valid argument to make. What I would say in response is, it is better to have a plan than to not have a plan at all. Right? If you're going to go to battle, better to have a plan than no plan at all. So that is our goal here. We oversimplify something that is super complicated, but by oversimplifying it, it gives you some understanding. And from that understanding, you can then make a plan, and you can use that plan to get where you want to get in life. Right? It's not going to be a perfect plan, but it's going to be a plan. So I kind of already described this part here, right? It's a framework that you can use to help you grow. So let's say, for example, you want to get better. That's super broad. You want to get better at what, right? What do you want to get better at? I want to get better at being healthy. Okay, that's already like a little more specific, but what do you really want to get better at? I want to live to 100 years old so I can play with my grandkids and my great-grandkids and still carry them up from the ground. Okay, that's pretty damn specific. Right, but before you can understand where to grow in, it's good to have a framework. Because what you see very often is that people focus on one thing, they focus on their physical health, but then by focusing on their physical health, maybe they lack their social contacts, right? Because they're just spending time in the gym, they never want to eat out, they just want to live healthy. So by having a framework of knowing what these different areas are and growing in each of them simultaneously, that is the goal, right? That's how it works. Yeah, I kind of just explained this. Growing in balance, that is the key. Right? If you go really hard on one thing, if you go really hard on being a millionaire, which once again, there's nothing wrong with being a millionaire, but if that means that by trying to make that million, you are deprecating your health, or maybe you are losing your social interactions, then it's not worth the price, right? So you want to have a balanced view on how to really become a better human being. So that brings us to the first assignment that you can do at home right now. I would like you to write down 3 things that you would like to grow in within the next year. Right? So just think about that for a moment. What are 3 things that you would really like to grow in the next year? And just drop them in the chat in the live stream, and we'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to work on that. And try to be audacious in writing these goals, right? Really try to make it something ambitious. What do you want to grow in the next year? All right, beautiful. Did we get some nice input in the chat?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. All right. Feel free to share it in the chat. If you have anything, you can also keep it for yourself. That is also perfectly fine.
I shared my leadership one.
It's a good one. Leadership. True. It's a beautiful thing to grow in. So, quote by Albert Einstein. Smartest man ever, apparently, because that's how you get your name to be used as a word for smart. Everything must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Right? So, making an area like this or making a concept like this, it's good to make it simple, but you don't want to make it simple to the point where it's no longer true. Right? That's something humans like. You see this a lot with conspiracy theorists. It's something is made so simple at one point because we really want to grasp what it's like. But then if it's really too simple, maybe you also want to take a step back, have a helicopter view, and see if it's still really true. Well, I already mentioned that this is just a system, right? This is just a framework. And this is just our system also. There's been a lot of different systems over the years. So maybe you've already heard, this used to be popular a few years ago, about Ikigai. It's a Japanese system which they use for purposeful and meaningful living. And that would be things like, what am I good at? Right? What could I get paid for? What do I enjoy doing? It's these 5 circles, and then the overlap of that, it shows you what is really important in life. Or we have something like the hierarchy of needs from Maslow. Maybe you've had this in psychology class or some other class. Basically, this is an intertwined framework of different needs that the human has, like the physiological needs, which would be the body and the air, the need for safety, the need for transcendence, the need for social interactions, right? That is also a framework trying to show how to be a better human. And even something as archaic and as ancient as the yin and yang symbol, right? We've all seen the yin and yang symbol. Good and evil. Heaven and hell. That, it's all the same thing. It's all systems that are trying to make a deduction from the same thing, which is living a proper life or living life in general. Right? So this is just our system, but there's been many different systems. And lastly, it is impossible, well, I guess nothing is impossible, but it's really fucking hard to master all the life areas, right? That is super hard. There's people that take an entire lifetime to just master a single thing. Take a Ray Dalio, for example, right? Super badass investor, $30 billion, or like a Warren Buffett, $80 billion, like on top of the financial game, but it took them a lifetime to master this one single area. Or maybe Usain Bolt, right? Sprinting, 100 meter in 9.69 seconds, literally a fucking bolt just flying over the course. Took him so much time and energy to master this one single area. So it's not possible to master all these different areas, but there's this thing called the Pareto principle, which basically states 20% of the input delivers 80% of the output. Now what I'm going to try to do is give you 20% of the idea, and in that sense you have 80% of the benefit, right? If you learn a little bit about every area, you already have most of the benefit. And I think that's always a good thing to aim for. So, maybe in the chat you can drop what systems you've been taught about or adhere to currently. And this could be any system, right? It could be something like eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or maybe you have a system of, tennis training every Thursday night since you were 6. Just try to put in some systems that you are currently already living out.
There were also some comments on the last one. I think you went by a bit too fast, but there was someone saying, Elena said, striving less for perfectionism / relaxing, health, and being able to do long free handstand, doing another YTT, and finding a fun job.
Nice. So I just heard that Elena said striving to do a handstand, which is really fucking awesome. Handstands are really awesome. I shall not do a handstand right now, then the mic might go off, but it's nice. And I think striving for less perfectionism and relaxation is a beautiful goal. And probably if you're watching this, I know that most people watching this sort of thing are quite perfectionistic, so it's good to just relax a little.
And there was a Nanol said tailoring down my interests within my studies / specialize in an area, and Dutch, Spanish, language / sports.
Nice.
Language and specializing in studies.
Specializing in studies. Spanish, beautiful language. I think it's the most beautiful language in the world.
Love language.
Love language.
You're using it right now.
Loving the BeMore community.
Do we have some routines in the chat?
No, not yet.
50 more seconds?
I mean, as a Dutchie, eating at 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing about live streams, you can watch it back.
That's true. But I mean, the early eating.
Early eating.
Dutchies.
We're happy you're all here.
It's giving everybody a handshake at the freaking birthday parties, go around the hall. Green Greens says, meeting my deadlines and not be too focused on the grades I will get. I think that's
For the previous one, for the goal still, yeah.
Dutch habits mostly.
Is the chat like a little bit behind on the...
It's about 2 minutes behind because of the YouTube sending.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to
It'll
know.
be 2 minutes before we should continue, but then again, people might be watching a bit back anyway.
Yeah, okay. In that case, I'll try to keep it minimal with things like in real time. That might be better.
Yeah.
All right, so I just heard that the live stream has a 2-minute lag. So by the time that I actually see your things in reality, I'm already further ahead in this presentation. So apologies for that, for in the beginning, and we'll try to do that a little bit smoother now. Let's get into the actual life areas, right? This is where it's going to get really exciting. Cool, 6 areas. By the end of this workshop, I'll set the word areas so often that you're going to puke, but, bear with me. One more time, we have the mental, the physical, the social, the financial, the creative, and lastly, the spiritual domain. So, starting off with the mental domain. If you've ever been to one of my workshops, you know that I always put this quote in because I just really love it so much. And it's a mistranslation from a quote by the Buddha. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Beautiful quote. And let me explain to you why this is such a beautiful quote. Basically, what this sentence says is that anything that you experience is your reality, right? So your subjective reality is your reality. And that is very profound and powerful for 2 specific reasons. Number 1 is to recognize that nobody else in this whole world lives the same reality as you do, right? Your reality is 100% completely unique. This gives you some reference, and it's also easier to give you compassion for other people. And it also, well, if you like being unique, it also gives you a sense of being unique. But the second thing, and that's even more powerful, is that by saying and acknowledging that your perceptions and your thoughts and your mind are your reality, you are also saying that you are the author of your own life. you have the superpower to change your own perceptions and to change your own mind. And through changing your perceptions and through changing your own mind, you can change your own world. Literally. Now, that to me is a superpower, right? You having the power to just create your own world in any way that you want to do. And that's why this quote is so powerful, because it gives you ultimate autonomy. Now, the thing is, by giving you ultimate autonomy, you're also giving yourself ultimate responsibility, right? And this is the part that can actually be very scary to people. Because by acknowledging that you are the one who is in control of your own world, of your own perceptions, of your own feelings, you also realize that if you then don't actually take the action, if you don't live the life that you want to be living, it's your own fault, right? So it feels even tougher if you then are not doing the things that you know to be doing, right? And we all know the quote, ignorance is bliss. I don't think that's true. I think ignorance feels like bliss. Over the long run, it doesn't, right? Sooner or later, you're going to realize reality and you're going to feel just very bad. But in this moment, it can be very painful to admit, like, yes, I am indeed the ultimate author of my life, right? I am indeed in control. I have indeed the ability and the duty to take extreme ownership of what I'm doing. This idea, this belief of being able to grow in your mental life, being able to build better frameworks, better tools, better ideas, better thoughts. That's what Carol Dweck coined the growth mindset. Now, by now, that's quite the popular term. Lots of people have heard it. But basically what she says is the growth mindset means that you believe that you can learn, that you can develop. Right? And the counterpart of that is a fixed mindset, which basically says, I am born a way, or I am this way, and because of that, I can't change. Right? And a great example of a fixed mindset was me about history and politics. Right? I just didn't give a fuck about politics. Nothing. It's like, that's just a waste of time. It's just a bunch of squandering away. But I also would say, like, I don't know anything about politics. Right? Politics is not my cup of tea. That's a typical fixed mindset thing to say. That is not my cup of tea. I'm not into that. I don't know anything about that. That's a fixed mindset. Now, the funny thing is, when I first learned about this concept, obviously, I want to be cool, I want to be nice. I was like, yeah, now I'm just going to live a growth mindset. I got a growth mindset. But it's not binary. It's not like either you got growth or either you got fixed. There are certain areas in your life where you have more of a growth mindset. Probably this is something that you're already really good at, and you realize that you can get better at it, or like a passion or a hobby. And there's always going to be things where you have a more fixed mindset. So that's why for this next assignment, I want you to write down what things in life do you currently already have a growth mindset about. And then also alternatively, in which areas of life do you not have a growth mindset? It's nothing wrong, nothing good, just some self-reflection to see, okay, where do I believe I can grow and where do I believe I'm static?
My cogs are working.
I'll give you a heads up when it's been 2-3 minutes.
Is audio off?
It is on. If you need it to be off, you can give me a little sign, but
All right, so really dig deep, right? What do you have a growth mindset on? Maybe you're a dancer, maybe you're a tennis player, maybe you like cooking. What is something that you already believe that you can get better in? And what is something that you feel, this is just the way it is. I am just fat, or I just don't know how to run, or I don't like reading. Try to dig deep and be honest with yourself. Okay, beautiful. I see a couple of things already in the chat. Bear in mind, it's a 2-minute delay. Growth mindset says Green Greens, exercising more, wellness, and reading more books. And then Nanon says sports, languages, public speaking, and fixed physics and mathematics. I get you on that one. I also say I suck at mathematics, but it's something that I can learn, right? All right, beautiful. Let's move on to the next domain. Physical domain. If our mind creates our own personal perceived reality, then our body is a tool that brings our mind into our common reality, right? So just now when I was saying you create your own world, I was talking about subjective experience. That's what's happening inside your mind. But there's also a common world that we share, something that we call the objective world, the materialistic world. And some people would say, no, that's not true. It's just a spiritual world, like the Buddhist would say, right? It's illusion. The whole life is illusion, delusion. It doesn't really exist. Other people will say it's all just material. Yeah, usually biologists and sociologists, they would say, no, it's just material. There is no such thing as the mind and the soul. But probably, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Our body does this through 2 different directions. Yeah? Directions, beautiful pronunciation. The first one is perception, which is basically taking the world in. We do this through our senses, right? We hear things, we smell things, we see things. We're taking the world in. The other one is by creating things, right? We're putting things into the world for others to perceive. And because of this, our body could be said to be defined, right? The body is a defined thing because it literally brings into existence something where there was nothing, right? It takes things that's in the subjective mind that don't exist yet, and you turn that into the objective real world. So this is also, if you look at the Christian story, the Genesis story, right? When the Bible starts, God creates the earth. But actually God doesn't create the earth. He speaks the world into being, right? It says that He speaks the earth into being. And that is a beautiful metaphysical story to show and a relation to show that by speech, our ability for speech as human beings, we are the only beings that have this complex speech, it allows us to bring things into existence, right? It allows us to create things, our speech and our action, right? Our action is just an extension of our speech, and our speech is just an extension of our minds, of our thoughts. So in that sense, the body really is like a divine and holy thing. It allows you to create things out of nothing. On the other hand, your body is just a bag of meat, right? It's just a thing, a meat vehicle. It's a machine of sorts. And just like any other machine, you need to maintain it, right? You need to change the tires, charge the batteries, refresh the oil. And the reason for doing this is the better the machine works, the smoother it works, the better and easier it is for you to actually get to fulfill and execute on your tasks and on your dreams and on your vision, right? But in order to do that, if you keep that all in your mind, but your body doesn't work, then you're never going to get there, right? Usain Bolt, he was sitting there, he's like, I'm going to run the fastest sprint in the world. It's an easy idea to have. Everyone can have that idea. I could have that idea right now. but you need to maintain the meat vehicle. And you also want to do that over the long run, right? You don't want to burn out when you're 30, 40, 50. You see this a lot with those corporate people. They go into like KPMG or McKinsey, Baker McKinsey. You go there, and pretty much the deal you make with them when you come in, they say, you're going to work way too much for a couple of years, and then you're burned out at the end of it, but we're going to pay you really well. Like, yeah, sure. But that doesn't work, right? You want to have longevity. So you want to really take care of your body so that when you're 80, you can still play with your grandkids and you're not sitting in a wheelchair with obese and diabetic and just the whole shit show of health issues. Lastly, there is a very strong connection between the mind and the body. Right? So the mind is often referred to as a piece of software. And that is true to a degree, but it's actually not really an apt analogy because your mind and your body are intertwined. And it's really difficult to put a line between the two, if at all even possible. So let me give you an example of this. Right? Within our brains, there is a whole bunch of neurochemistry, which are little chemicals that are partly regulating how we feel and our mood and a bunch of other things, right? These are called neurotransmitters, and they regulate our motivation, our appetite, our sleep, our connection, our feelings of love and bonding. And a great example of one of these neurotransmitters is serotonin, which is a chemical that gets massively released when you take MDMA. Right? So let's say you've been to a festival, you've been raving hard, you went to Paradigm, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to try doing some ecstasy. Basically what that does is just releases all the serotonin, well not all the serotonin, but a lot of serotonin inside your body and it just floods you with it, right? And you fall in love with the world. You're like, oh damn, this feels so good. I love you, I don't know who you are, but yeah. It's just like you fall in love with the world, right? Serotonin is just flowing in your system. The day after, you're going to feel like shit. Right? Most people who've tried something like this, but it's also relevant for other things, right? You're going to feel like shit the day after. And that's because there's simply not enough serotonin in your system. Now, this is a perfect example of a physical thing in your body, right? Super physical. There's a chemical that is missing inside your brain that has a very large effect on your feeling and your thoughts, right? You're feeling existentially empty, you're having negative thoughts, and that's just to illustrate how much the mind and the body influence each other, right? And just to illustrate the other way around. A few weeks ago, we did a cold challenge with BeMore, maybe like a few months ago now. It's a perfect example of doing something physical, right? You're going into ice cold water. And what does your body do? Your body gets super uncomfortable, it's super painful, and it just releases a bunch of endorphins, right? And if you're wondering what endorphins are, they're basically the neurotransmitters that make you feel high when you're running, right? That's the runner's high. And same goes for cold water. Why does it release it? Because the body hurts, and it also works as a numbing agent. So it makes you not feel the pain as much. So both ways, right? The body and the mind greatly, greatly influence each other. All right. So right now we're going to bring some things into existence with our body. So first let's just start with clapping, right? How fucking amazing is that? You can clap your hands and you can just create sound. Super weird. Maybe you want to try to grab something and just hold in your hands, turn it upside down. All right, turn it upside down. How awesome is that? You just take something, you can throw it in the air, and you can catch it again. You can even throw it to someone, and they can throw it back. Boom. Manipulating space and time. Just like that. Right? Bringing things into existence. Just try to do some stuff with your body, and really try to notice like how fucking weird it is that you have the power here to manipulate all these things. Right? Maybe you want to make some sounds. Just feel that. It's strange. It's weird. But defined tool that you have. All right, I'm so sorry that you have to do this at home because it would have been so much fun to do this together in a room and everyone's just going crazy. But I promise we're going to be, soon we'll be together again. Soon we'll be together again. Which brings us to the social domain. Right? It's a difficult domain in these times, definitely a difficult domain, but it doesn't mean you don't want to pursue it. So, after this domain, we'll have a little break as well, so bear with me for this one. We just established that we have a common reality, right? Our objective reality. It's something where we share, right? I just threw something to Lucy, she threw it back. There's two of us here in this reality. By definition, being in a common reality, there's multiple people. Right? If something is common, there's multiple people. If there's multiple people, social interactions are always bound to take place. Either you are extremely, extremely antisocial, but in any other case, social interactions are bound to take place. And it is essential to learn how to navigate this social landscape. Why? Why is it essential to learn to navigate this social landscape? First of all, it is one of the most nourishing and meaningful things that you can do. I remember a long time ago, watching this TED Talk, and I think it was a research from Harvard. Don't pin me down on that. Maybe someone can drop it in the live stream. They basically did a 80-year long lasting research into a group of people to see who lived the longest. And what they noticed is that the people that had a strong social network, a strong social embedment, they were the people that also lived long and happy lives. Right? So humans are deeply social creatures. That's part of why it's important. But in a moment, I'll tell you a little more about why this is so important. It is important to connect and resonate with people. It's kind of what I illustrated with the story just now. We all know that feeling of being together with a good friend. Right? Just sitting down and you start talking and you just go into this warp tunnel where everything... Okay, sorry.
Oversteers on the...
I'm shouting a little too hard. My apologies for that. I get a little excited about this stuff. So, you know that feeling, you sit down together, you go into that tunnel vision, and before you know it's 3 hours later. Or spending time with someone that you have a romantic relationship with, right? Those are some of the best moments you can ever have in life. So really connecting and resonating with people, that's an important part about living a social life. But it's also about manipulating other people. Now, this might seem very negative at first, right? Manipulating people. Manipulating is not necessarily bad. You can also manipulate people for the good. Basically what you do is you try to get other people to help you realize your vision or goal. You're trying to leverage human capital by influencing people in the right way. Right? In the Confidence and Charisma workshop, we went really deep into how to do this, how to be charismatic, how to be confident enough to help people, let people do the things that you want them to do. So if you want to see that, we can do that workshop another time in the future and give you a little more information on that. But the point being here is that manipulating people is not bad. It is necessary to really get to where you want in life. And then lastly, in his book, Humankind, Rutger Bregman speaks about this theory of survival of the friendliest. Right now, we've all heard about survival of the fittest. In the beginning of the workshop, I told you about what being fit means, right? Inhabiting your environment in a way that really optimizes your chances for survival. But usually this is correlated with physical fitness. But humans have this thing that we are so socially intertwined with each other that for us it's actually very important to be friendly, to build connection with other people. Right? Because if we don't do that, we slowly start going down the social hierarchy, the competence hierarchy, And if we fuck up bad enough, we get kicked out. Right? And if you get kicked out, if people don't want to hang out with you, you're doomed for life. And you see this in little kids already. If little kids are not socialized before the age of 4 to 6, they're basically fucked for life. If they don't know how to play with other kids, if they don't know how to make friends, that's a wrap. Right? Because it's through being with other people that we learn. It's not that humans have become so different in the last 50,000 years, right? If I would grab a baby 50,000 years ago, put it in this world, when it's 20, it would just function as we would. And the other way around, right? Humans haven't changed. What we do is we learn from each other all the time. And if you are unable to connect with people and learn from them, you're pretty screwed. So ultimately, the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? You want to be and fit and friendly and competent at being a human being, and that way you rise the social hierarchy, the competence hierarchy, and that's also how you make the biggest impact in the world. That's how you bring the most people with you on your mission, on your goal, and that's how you live the richest and most meaningful life on a social level. All right, one more exercise. After that, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So, this exercise, if you have a mirror, I would recommend you, or I would invite you to take that mirror and just eye gaze with yourself. Right? Phone camera would also work, yeah. Although that'd be difficult because then either you look at the camera or at the screen. So normally we would do this with other people because eye gazing is a great way to build a bond, but you can try it with yourself. And if you want, you can share a vulnerability about yourself in the chat. Right? And maybe to just kind of set the tone, I can first share a vulnerability about myself. What I find very difficult is to truly commit to a relationship, especially romantic relationships. And I'm still trying to figure out why this is. This is super complicated for me. Sometimes I think back and, I had some daddy issues when I was younger. So I would not really, sorry, I just noticed the screen behind me changed. My dad would not be around a lot, and then I think, is that the reason why I also have commitment issues? I don't really know, but for me that is really a struggle, and it's also something that I spend a lot of time and energy in. But I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point in life. I hope. And otherwise, just solo to the grave. All right, so feel free to share something vulnerable, and then after that we'll have a 10-minute break.
I like the workshop, it's fun.
Yeah? Thank you. Thank you. I missed a few things with the notes, but it's...
I didn't notice.
no, that's all. Back? Back we are. Perfect. All right. I hope everyone's back from their little break. Super important to take breaks with all the home sitting 24 hours a day. So now we're going to move into the next domain number 4, the financial. Seneca is one of the Stoic philosophers. Stoicism, really interesting and very practical philosophy of life. And he has this quote that a man, it's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Basically what this quote means, basically what he is saying is that being rich or being poor is related to how much you have towards fulfilling what you want. Right? So preferably you want things that you find valuable in life, right? Preferably things that you truly value, that's also the things that you want. And if you don't have those and you want them, then yes, you are poor, and yes, you should try everything to do to become rich, to get what you want, because it's something that you truly value deep in life. But if you don't really value something, right? Maybe you value freedom. Freedom is very important to you, and then you buy a big-ass house. It's like, why would you want a big-ass house? You wanted freedom, right? But you just want to buy it. You just crave it. In that moment, you want something that you don't truly value, and you don't have it, then you're super poor, because you don't have what you want, and what you want is not really what you want. So that's really, really easy way to have a lot, but still feel poor. So, we live in a world with physical needs, right? We live in a body that has physical needs. We need water, air, shelter, all the good stuff, right? You just want to stay alive. Want some oxygen in your body. We got physical needs. Now, we spend most of our time, most of our waking hours to really take care of these needs, right? That's what humans have always been doing. We're hunting for our food, we're gathering together, we're building a hut, we're building a house. So these physical needs are super important. Now, after a time, right, I have something that I find valuable. Let's say I got this pointer here. This pointer to me is valuable. I want to have this pointer. Maybe Bjarne over there also has something that he finds valuable. Maybe he has, a TV remote. And for some reason, I really want that TV remote and he really wants this pointer. Then we can decide to trade something that is of value of us, but only if we make a benefit out of it. The important thing here to realize, just like I mentioned earlier, is that for everyone, value is different, right? We have our common reality, but we might see two completely different things. Right? Let's say we go outside, I might see a very great and grandiose oak tree with long leaves and shedding its acorns, and maybe Lucy would just see a tree. But we're looking at the same thing, but we have a different value ascribed to that thing. So what we try to do is we try to reach a consensus about the thing that's really there. So maybe there's no consensus that it's an oak tree, but maybe we can get to the consensus that there's a piece of wood sticking out of the ground. Right? And this is what humans are continuously doing, because everyone describes different values to certain things, but we try to reach a consensus somewhere in the middle. We try to find a place where we agree. And after we've reached that consensus, that's also when we can start trading physical goods and services. right? Just to illustrate one more time why this is important. So let's say we haven't reached consensus on a thing, right? Let's say I say to you, here, there you go, this is a beautiful meal. It's a beautiful bowl of noodles, and you're really going to enjoy this. Maybe that bowl of noodles does not exist. Maybe in my hand, I'm just having like a handful of sand, right? Then you would decline. We would not reach consensus. You would tell me, no, fuck off. That's not a bowl of noodles. That's just a little bit of sand, right? And if there's no consensus, then we're not going to be trading anything because we don't agree what's in the middle. So that's always where it starts. First, we need to reach consensus. What is it that we have? And then after we've reached that, that's when we can start trading. And preferably, we get rid of things that we don't value, right? Like me, for example, I don't really value clothing that much. Or maybe I don't really value a big room that much. But maybe I really value my Blue Monster energy drink, which I do really value, right? Then I could trade something that's not valuable to me for something else that is not valuable for someone else, right? In that sense, you're building your own capital. Now, in an attempt to homogenize this value, we as humans have created money, right? Because it's super tedious and difficult to always have to determine the worth of something, then determine the worth of something else. Then you're like trading that with each other. Then you have to store everything, especially if you're rich, if you have like 10,000 bags of salt or flour or whatever it is that you are saving up, maybe like just maps and maps full of stamps, whatever it is you're saving. So at one point we decided, you know what, we're going to try to homogenize the value and we're going to give it a label, and we call that money. And a euro or a dollar or a yen or a gold coin has a certain value on which we once again kind of reach a consensus. And money is just a very easy way to do transactions, but it's also very scalable, right? You can take money all over the world. And you see this right now. We already have a very global economy, but things like Bitcoin, right? That's literally a currency that anyone, anywhere on the world could use. So money in that sense is very scalable. But once again, and this is really, really important to understand, you should only try to get things that are truly valuable to you. Right? So if you want to make 10 million euros, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with making 10 million euros, but why do you want to make 10 million euros? Is it because you really want to make the world a better place and that you realize that money is a very powerful tool to leverage other people to do what you want, and in that way you could help other people? Or is it because you want to buy a Lambo and look cool? And then if you really want to buy a Lambo and look cool, that's really, truly at the core what's valuable to you, then that's awesome. But usually when you go deep down, that's not what you want. And it's when you start spending money on things that aren't really valuable to you that you really start harming yourself, right? Because the entire reason why we created money to begin with is to transfer value, right? And if you get something that isn't valuable to you, you're not transferring value. You're just transferring stuff for no apparent reason. So dig deep. Why do you want it? And if you know why you want it and what you want, just go after it and get it. Write down 5 things that are truly valuable to you. And you can share it in the chat. You should share a couple of things. And just really try to think deeply. What is really valuable to you? And try to keep it in the materialistic domain. Right? For me, for example, my laptop is really valuable. As I said, Blue Monster energy drinks, really valuable. A roof over my head, really valuable. But it could also be deeper things, right? Maybe a really good book that you've always cherished. So try to write down a few things that are really valuable to you. Perfect. All right, I heard some good things already rolling in, ranging from beard oil, that's you, Mikael, to houses and laptops and kite surfing gear. So that's good. It's perfectly fine to spend some money on things that are valuable to you. So next up, we have the creative domain. Creation really means turning nothing into something, or turning something into something else, right? Creativity is literally the ability to create. It is what we mentioned earlier, using your body to bring things into existence. It is also at the core of what we do as humans. Right? This makes us really unique compared to other animals. Right? We are constantly creating things, and we also create things that makes it easier for us to create other things, right? Which we would call tools. We create stuff that makes it easier to create stuff, which then again makes it easier to create stuff, and that is something that other animals don't do, right? A bird might build a nest, but it's not going to build a nest builder that will help its next nest to be even easier to build, right? That's really what makes humans unique. And it also allows us to accrue the aforementioned goods and services, right? What we're talking about in the financial domain, you want to acquire goods and services. Our creative and creativity allow us to make those things. Cool. Just mentioned this already, tools. So, I'm going to try to do these numbers. I was supposed to have some notes here, but I can't combine it with the live stream right now. But 2.5 million years ago, right? We had humans and they had tools. They had a rock, right? Big rock, smash. Awesome. It's like Hulk smash but with a rock. That was the tool that we had, right? Then move forward 2 million years in the future. So let's say we're like 500,000 years ago, right? Rocks had developed into pointy, sharp rocks. Really good stuff, like high-tech tools, right? High-tech, boom. Maybe even like get a little fire going with the really sharp rock. And then take another leap forward to around 40,000 years ago, and we had bone needles and harpoons and burins, right? We had fine bone tools. It took us 2.5 million years, nearly 2.5 million years to go from stones that we were just clasping together to fine bone tools, right? So the growth of tools was very slowly in the beginning. But there's this thing called exponential growth, right? And that basically means that the curve, it isn't linear, right? It doesn't go like that. It goes flat, 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 up, 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 and it's a hockey curve. All of a sudden, you're just growing at an immensely, immensely fast pace. Now, to put that into perspective for you, 70 years ago, roughly 70 years ago, the internet was founded. Someone made the idea for the internet, and we started building that. Now we're 70 years further down the line, and everyone is on the internet, right? Within a few years, probably the whole world population that knows how to use a computer is going to be on the internet. Now, compare that, right? It's 2.5 million years to go from a round rock to a pointier rock, and then 70 years to go from no internet to everyone's connected, right? That's nearly 40,000 times faster than that whole gap was, right? So much faster, and that is what exponential growth really does. And that also means that our creativity, the only thing our creativity is really limited by is our ideas, right? We literally have unlimited potential in this day and age. Maybe you want to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. Consider it done. We already accomplished that. Maybe you want to go to Mars or go to the moon or go even outside of our solar system. We're working on that. Right? We'll be there in our lifetimes. And maybe you want to reverse climate change and restore biodiversity and really just save the planet from all the damage that we've done to it. give us a few decades, right? With the tools and the exponential growth that we have the power and the capability to really make these things happen. And I think that's very liberating to know that our thoughts are really now becoming the only thing that limits us. And the cool thing about technological growth is also that it's way more decentralized, right? Everyone is getting access to these tools. Everyone can start a YouTube channel. Anyone can write a piece of code. We are becoming interconnected, and the tools are becoming more and more decentralized. So 2.5 million years ago, technology was a piece of stone. Now technology is basically anything that you can dream about. So creativity is really what allows us to just build the world that we want to build. So I would like you to write down 5 ideas, and that can be any crazy idea, right? You have this guy, James Altinger, I think his name is James Altinger, and he's done this thing where he writes 10 ideas every single day, and he's been doing that for decades, just 10 ideas, really to try to train that idea muscle, right? So I want you to write down 5 ideas just to kind of warm up that idea muscle, and then choose one of these ideas and look into it a little further after this workshop. Do a little research into it, right? Because the ideas are our only limiting potential, or limiting factor, rather. So it's good to craft good ideas. Give that a shot, and then we'll get back to the last domain. Awesome, cool. So we were just saying while you were doing the exercise that actually this thing right here, that's also like super high tech. The fact that I'm talking to a lens, which is rather weird, but it means that, you're also just seeing that on the other side of the world, maybe even. Probably in Groningen, but theoretically speaking, the other side of the world. All right, the last domain. Personally, I believe that this domain should be the first one, but I didn't want to scare you off, so I put it last, right? But I think this is really the most important domain. I love this quote by Einstein. Basically, it says, we're always in awe with life, right? We never know. We never really know, right? We think we know so many things. And we do know a lot of things. But for everything that we know, there is 1,000, 1,000,000 unlimited things that we don't know. And that is scary, right? It can be very scary and frightening, but it's also really awesome, right? Puts you in awe, it stimulates curiosity, and it's just a mystery to be explored. But in order to deal with that mystery, we need some meaning and some purpose. All right? Our quest for meaning is a fundamental quest that we have as human beings. And there are people that will say meaning does not exist, right? Life is meaningless. This nihilistic worldview is very easy to believe. And it's also very easy to act out. Because by saying that nothing really matters, it also doesn't matter what you do. So it's basically a free card to do whatever the fuck you want. Right? You could party, you could kill, you can have sex, you can do anything you want because it doesn't really matter, right? As Linkin Park lead singer Chester Bennington sang, in the end, it doesn't really matter. But it does, right? Meaning is real. We ascribe meaning to our own lives. Even if it's just perceived meaning from our subjective reality, that is something that makes the burden of life bearable, right? It makes that suffering of the unknown, of the unlimited things that could happen to you, to your loved ones, to anyone, it is the thing that makes that bearable. So humans have always tried to find meaning and purpose in life. It's our most fundamental quest. That's also why I find this life area so important, because it's at the core of what we're doing. So, one of the things we try to strive for is transcendence, right? This is something that really gives humans a lot of meaning. And transcendence can be on multiple different levels. But basically it means doing something that is bigger than yourself. Maybe you want to take care of your family and your friends. Maybe you want to help your community and your country. Maybe you want to make the world a better place, or you want to explore the universe. Or maybe you seek to get a union with God, or the Logos. Right? We're doing things that are bigger than ourselves. That's where we find meaning. If we only do things for ourselves, we're not living a happy life, right? If we live in a hyper-individualistic society, which, Western societies sometimes have a tendency to be like that, it can really make us feel like shit. So doing something that's bigger than ourselves is really where we can find a lot of meaning and purpose in our lives. And the ultimate form in which this has all been summarized and brought together is in spiritual teachings. Right? Over the years, there has been many different religions and many different people trying to all summarize what this meaning of life is. How we can achieve that in ourselves. Right? Being in contact with Jesus, right? Trying to emulate the good traits of Jesus in your own life. Or believing in Jesus the person. Or maybe you are a Buddhist, right? You believe in training your mind in order to transcend it and go into nirvana. Or maybe you're a Muslim and you believe that Muhammad really had a connection with God and you want to live the words of God in your own life, right? We have so many different spiritual teachings that help us find this meaning and purpose in life. But the interesting thing in these teachings, in all these teachings, is that they are describing the same thing. Right? It's not a different thing that they're trying to tell you. It's not that Christianity is talking about a different essence than Islam is, or Buddhism, or Hinduism, or whatever other religion, right? The essence is always the same. And in that sense, I'm very glad that there are so many different teachings, because different things work for different people. Different stories resonate with different people, right? And that's at the end of the day just what this is, a way of storytelling. It's a narrative to teach you about this essence. And you just want to find the thing that resonates with you, and once you feel it, just really go into that, right? So, the spiritual domain. So, a lot of practical things that you can do, but for now, we'll just keep it at this. I'm going to take you through a short guided meditation, and I'll do a loving kindness meditation. We could also do a more sense-based meditation or a awareness-based meditation, but I feel that those are a little harder to grasp in the beginning, might not feel as good, so we'll just do a little mindfulness, loving kindness meditation. So I would like to invite you to close your eyes. Just really get comfortable. Feel yourself sitting on the chair, legs on the chair, back against the rest or the wall, wherever it is you're sitting. And just take a moment to sink in where you are. And after you took that time, after you felt yourself sitting there, being in the present moment, I want you to wish yourself well. Right? Mentally say to yourself, may you be happy. Or may I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. And may I experience love. And then try to really feel that feeling of love and compassion. And take that feeling and wish it to someone else. Preferably someone you don't have a complicated relationship with, but a good friend or a family member. And just mentally wish them well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. Really sink into that feeling. And then lastly, we're going to take that feeling of love and compassion and we're just going to wish it upon the whole world. And if you want, you can visualize it as if there's light coming out of you, warmth coming out of you, but you could also just mentally rehearse the same. May all beings, may all humans be happy. May all be peaceful. May all be free from suffering and enjoy real love, and real harmony, and real balance. And then we're just going to come back to the present moment, feel ourselves sitting, wiggle a little bit, get back into reality. Right? And I sincerely wish that you felt the warmth and the love inside you there for a moment, because that's what it's all about. Right? That is really just all that life is about. At the end of the day, life is just a string of little moments, day after day after day. It's like these little experiences that you have. And if you can feel love in a moment, if you can feel connection in a moment, if you can feel gratitude in a moment, those moments are worthwhile. Those moments are meaningful. And it is something to cherish and something worth developing in yourself over the long run. Cool, all right. Recap of what we discussed today. First of all, the 6 life areas, right? See, I said it so many times, I'm already starting. We made these life areas as a gross oversimplification of a very complex thing, which is me being a human, right? The relevance of these areas is to give you a framework to work from. It teaches you what you can grow in. It helps you see angles that you previously might not have seen. Right? It might help you explore a different side of yourself. The history of the life areas, there's many different ones that have existed throughout history. There's many different ones that exist today. This is just our version, but it doesn't have to be the version, right? If another version works better for you, then That's awesome. The mental domain, your mind is your reality. You are ultimately in control of your own mind and thus over your own reality. And that's a superpower to develop and cherish in yourself. Physical domain, it is bringing what's inside in our mind into reality. Right? It's a defined tool. It allows us to grasp an idea, a cloud of something, and turn it into something concrete. It's a beautiful way of utilizing your raw potential and turning it into something and manifesting it into something concrete. Social domain, connecting with other people, resonating with each other, right? We're doing this together, flying on this rock through space, hurling at ungodly speeds. Got to do that together, right? Got to be together. And also use your social capacity to leverage other people, right? Manipulate/influence them to help them to, rather to get them to help you with the things that are valuable for you. Utilize their potential and then build awesome shit. The financial domain, right? We want to meet our basic needs. That's the essence of being a human. We really, I realized I said that's the essence of the human being about 7 different things already. It's because they're all essential, just as a little side note. But the basic needs, we need that to survive. Material input needs to happen, or even services is something that we would like to have. And the financial domain is just our ability to get those things that we want. Right? It gives us leverage to get what we want. The creative domain, tools, allows us to build stuff, which allows us to build tools, and make better tools, and then we have this vicious circle going up, and it's exponential growth. And basically, our creativity is just limited by the mind, right? Humans are really good at making tools, so are you, so am I, and that's what gives us this creative power. Really awesome creative power. And lastly, the spiritual domain. We are on a fundamental quest for meaning and purpose. And that is something worthwhile developing in yourself. And this is also why it's so important to have these 6 different life areas and grow in all of them in balance, right? Because if you are worrying about having no food on the table at night, spiritual development is going to be really difficult. If you are doing 80-hour work weeks and you're grinding your ass off to make money, but you have got 0 mindfulness and you're just suffering mentally this entire time, that's not worth it. If you have connections with everyone and everybody loves you and it's like life is great, but you are unhealthy, diabetic, you've got a leg amputee coming up in 5 years and with another 5 you'll be dead, that doesn't work. Right? So we want to keep all these life areas in balance and grow like that. The conclusion, fully realizing that you shouldn't be reading a quote, I'm just going to read it anyway. This might be a terrible plan. This might be a decent plan, or it might even be the best plan ever invented. It is not our place to make that judgment. But try it out. Give it an honest effort. And find out what works for you and double down on that. Triple down on that. Right? This is just a plan. We just made this plan. There's so many other different ways to do it. Do what works for you, but really try to grow in balance and be a proper good human being. Because that's what we need, right? The whole world needs that right now. So much shit going on everywhere. Here in the Netherlands, people are just rioting on the streets, but also all over the world. We got a bunch of people that live in poverty, that are hungry. There's just so much shit that needs to be solved. So we need you. We need proper human beings, and that should be a worthwhile time investment to make. If you want to learn more about BeMore, if you want to learn more about what we do, you can go to our website where we have a bunch of information. Also a blog article about this workshop, which goes a little more in depth about things that we've discussed. We got a podcast, which is called the BeMore Cast. It's not a brilliant name, but it's a name that works. And basically we just discuss a bunch of things in that. I'm so sorry, Lucy. I thought I made that name up.
Slander on the live.
In that case, it's a beautiful podcast name. Love it. And we, as I mentioned, we have a blog on our website, so feel free to check that out. Are there any questions? Is there anything else that you want to know, anything that you want to ask, anything that you want to share? Please drop it in the chat. I would love to get some engagement here from your side.
Just take a minute. I don't know if we made it up together or something. But I'm eating.
Cool.
Oh, right. No. Thank you again for valuable insight. It was brilliant. Thank you guys.
Yeah, just thank you.
Can we?
You could talk. Audio on.
Okay. No questions. In that case, thank you so much for listening and staying all the way to the end. I would really love to improve both as a speaker but also as organizing this live stream. So if you could take just a few minutes to go to this link at the bottom of the sheet and provide us with some feedback, that would be really awesome, because it's for us really a journey to learn about all this stuff. And your input helps us create better things. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to create cool content, want to create content that is actually valuable to you. So yeah, if you could take a few minutes to fill that out. And then I want to thank everyone for being here. And I hope to really soon have a physical workshop again, get to hang out, get to share experiences, and lots of love to all of you at home. See you later.